It is 11 p.m. in Las Vegas, 9 a.m. in Damascus, and 4 on a Friday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Moon Gon-young. This is ARIRANG, Korea's only global network. Now, Seoul's Unification Ministry says it is willing to talk about the resumption of an inter-Korean tourism project near Mount Kumgang if North Korea makes a request for dialogue. Ministry spokesman Kim said Friday, although the issues of tourism operation and family reunions are not linked, South Korea would be willing to talk about the Mount Kumgang tourism project if Pyongyang were to make a detailed proposal. Now, his remarks come a day after North Korea rejected Seoul's proposal to resume inter-Korean family reunions for those separated during the Korean War. The spokesman said North Korea should show it is sincere about Seoul's offer if it truly wants improved ties with the South. North Korea has been found to have the worst nuclear security conditions in the world. A report by a U.S.-based think tank shows the regime ranks rock bottom in terms of safeguarding its nuclear materials and adhering to international standards. Connie Kim has this report.
While the international community rightly focuses on the problems facing the region and the wider world after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, something equally as bad could happen at any time just north of the border, as a new report shows North Korea has the worst nuclear security conditions in the world. Nuclear Threat Initiative, a U.S.-based think tank, ranked North Korea's Nuclear Materials Security Index at 30 points out of 100, the lowest among 25 countries that hold weapons-usable nuclear materials. The index measures the quantity and sites of nuclear materials, global norms and domestic commitments of countries with more than 1 kilogram of highly enriched uranium and plutonium. Among the factors evaluated, North Korea ranked the lowest in the categories of voluntary commitments, safeguards adherence, and compliance. The NTI said that the North's lack of information regarding nuclear activity was the main reason behind the country's low scores. The organization also added it could improve its scores if the country signs and ratifies international agreements and shows initiative in international nuclear security. Overall, nuclear material security improved worldwide. 7 states, including Hungary, Mexico, and Ukraine, began completely removing most or all of its weapons-usable nuclear materials in 2012. The report comes ahead of the Nuclear Security Summit to be held in March in The Hague. Australia topped the list, followed by Canada and Switzerland, while India and Iran ranked 23rd and 24th, respectively. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Former NBA star Dennis Rodman is stirring up controversy again following a report that he brought luxury gifts worth thousands of dollars to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his wife. It remains to be seen whether he will face consequences for the act, which is a clear violation of UN sanctions. Son Jung-in reports.
The controversy surrounding former NBA star Dennis Rodman flared anew after revelations that Rodman gave North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his family luxury gifts worth thousands of dollars on his recent trip there. Dennis Halpin, a scholar at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, quoting a diplomatic source, said Rodman was carrying birthday presents for the North Korean leader and gifts for his family. According to the source, Rodman brought several $100s worth of Irish Jameson whiskey, European crystal, an Italian suit for Kim, and a fur coat and an English Burberry handbag for Kim's wife, Lee Seol-ju. The total cost of the gifts is reportedly well over $10,000. Halpin noted that providing Pyongyang with any luxury goods is a clear violation of the sanctions imposed by UN Security Council Resolution 1718, which was first imposed after North Korea's first nuclear test in 2006 and as a response to Kim Jong-il's large-scale purchases of luxury goods as his people went hungry. The UNSC resolution specifies that prohibited luxury goods are banned for transfer to North Korea, including certain kinds of jewelry and precious stones and luxury automobiles. It remains to be seen whether Rodman will be punished under an executive order signed by U.S. President Barack Obama that states that harsh penalties can be imposed on any U.S. citizen violating the resolution. Rodman could be facing up to 20 years in jail and a fine of $1 million, along with other civil penalties. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
South Korea and the U.S. are continuing talks on this Friday on how much each side should contribute toward the stationing of U.S. troops in Korea. Sources say the biggest sticking point at the 10th round of talks in Seoul remains the total amount of Korea's contribution. Seoul wants its payments starting this year to be about $850 million, but Washington is asking for more. The two sides hope to finalize a special measures agreement, of which the previously agreed terms expired last week. The leaders of the ruling and main opposition parties are set to hold separate press conferences early next week where they'll announce their policy goals for 2014. Our political correspondent Kim Hyun-ji reports on what we can expect.
The ruling Saenuri Party will hold its New Year's news conference in Seoul next Tuesday, about 1 week after President Park Geun-hye held her own. Saenuri Party chief Hwang Woo-yeol is expected to outline how his party intends to help President Park realize her 3-year economic innovation plan. The president wants to put the country on the path to a per capita income of $40,000 and a 70% employment rate before her term ends. With that in mind, the ruling party chief is likely to talk about how the National Assembly should support the slowly recovering economy and boost domestic demand. As the legislation of such bills requires bipartisan efforts, Hwang is likely to seek help from the main opposition party. Another issue that may come up during the press conference is reunification with North Korea, which President Park described as being a jackpot in her New Year's address. On the other side of the political aisle lies the main opposition Democratic Party, whose chairman Kim Han-gil will hold his New Year's press conference on Monday. Political watchers expect Kim to urge President Park and the government to communicate more effectively in 2014, both with the general public and the opposition. He's also expected to once again call on the president to launch an independent investigation into allegations that a number of state institutions, including the spy agency and the military, try to influence the outcome of the 2012 presidential election in favor of now President Park Geun-hye. Reviving the economy is also a goal of the Democratic Party, but the party wants to do it by promoting fair business practices. The rival party's press conferences early next week will be the first ones held under the current leadership, and both leaders are expected to address two main issues that kept the National Assembly in a deadlock for much of last year: the policy divide between the rival parties and the election manipulation scandal. Kim Hyun-ji, ARIRANG News.
China has accused Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of siding with convicted war criminals over at the United Nations following his recent visit to the Yasukuni Shrine, as the Japanese warded honor there include more than a dozen Class A war criminals. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
China has taken its diplomatic row with Japan to the United Nations, questioning Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's distorted view on history after he visited a shrine commemorating several notorious war criminals. China's UN envoy Lui Ji-yi says Abe was siding with convicted war criminals over the UN by visiting the Yasukuni Shrine, which he said whitewashes and glorifies Japan's wartime aggression.
It is a dangerous distortion of the right and wrong. It is also a stand on the wrong side of history.
In response, Japan's UN ambassador Motohide Yoshikawa said Abe's visit did not praise war criminals or militarism, but was a tribute to the Japanese war dead. Following talks with visiting Japanese foreign and defense ministers in Paris Thursday, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said Abe's visit, although a delicate issue, was to respect the Japanese that died during the war. Abe's younger brother and senior vice foreign minister Nobuo Kishi will head to the U.S. next Monday to ask Washington to understand why Abe visited the shrine. During his 5-day trip, Kishi is expected to meet with U.S. government officials and experts, among others. 14 Class A war criminals and 100 more convicted of lesser crimes are enshrined in Yasukuni, among Japan's 2.5 million war dead. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
The latest round of talks on a Korea-China free trade agreement came to an end this Friday morning, but with no significant breakthroughs. In the 9th round of talks held in China's central Shanxi province, the two countries began discussing the products that will be subject to the deal, including those each side considers highly sensitive. The Korean Trade Ministry said, however, the two failed to make much progress. Korea had asked that tariffs on the petrochemical, steel, and IT industries be lifted, while China asked that certain manufactured products from Korea be classified as highly sensitive. Now, Korea believes a FTA with its #1 trading partner, China, will give it leverage in negotiating the terms of its participation in the U.S.-led multilateral Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, China, the world's second largest economy, really saw its trade total surplus more than $4 trillion for the first time. China's General Administration of Customs said Friday that the country's trade was $4.16 trillion in 2013. The agency said exports grew 7.9% from the previous year, while imports grew 7.3%. Now, that gave the country a trade surplus of more than $259 billion last year. China saw its exports increase 4.3% in December compared to the same month the year before. And Seoul shares fell to their lowest close in 4 months on this Friday as investors were dragged down by worries about the outlook for corporate earnings, while overseas investors were reluctant to buy ahead of U.S. jobs data later in the day. Now, at the closing bell, the benchmark Kospi was down 0.4%, closing the day and the week at 1939, while the Tech-Avik Kosdaq was down 0.3%. On the foreign exchange counter, the Korean currency closed stronger against the greenback at 1,061 won. I confidently recommend Korea as the most promising investment destination. Well, those were the words of President Park Geun-hye on Thursday as she sought to sell this country as a promising destination for investment. She offered the recommendation during a lunch meeting with foreign CEOs running Korean businesses, where she urged them to take advantage of the competitive local partners' excellent human resources and other favorable business conditions in this country. So, how favorable is Korea as an investment destination? Joining us live in the studio to give us an analysis is Dr. Kim Byung-ju, head of KLP Consulting and our regular commentator on this program. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Kim.
Good afternoon.
So, President Park Geun-hye seems to be working hard to extend Korea's commitment to promoting foreign investment. Now, let's go over some of her key messages from yesterday.
Right, key messages from the second such kind of meeting. The first one having taken place in April last year. This was the second time, and one of the most noted statements made by herself was in response to GM Korea's head's statement that we are here to stay. She said the government, Korean government, is here to support you. So I thought that was a very good message management as a whole. Basically, what she was saying was Korea has to be considered as one of the most promising investment destinations in the global market here, because Korea has not only world's some of the leading players in the form of big businesses, but also SMEs also that can supply top-grade parts to these kind of global players as well. So that needs to be considered. And she also emphasized that the market here itself is size that has a considerable size itself. And on top of that, FTAs that we have set up with leading economic zones and economies around the world should play as a kind of like springboard for these investors who can produce and do the research from here and extend to other markets here. So I think she was covering some of the very important points that Korean government should have covered more effectively in the past.
Now, in recent days, we have been seeing a lot of efforts to attract foreign investment to this country. I mean, last week, there was the passage of the Foreign Investment Promotion Law at the National Assembly.
Right.
And then yesterday, there was this presidential luncheon. Now, how do we explain this drive to attract more foreign investment. Would you say the rapid growth of conglomerates overseas investment is a factor?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a factor because this this administration that has been in place for the past year or so has been emphasizing job creation. But what's happening is Korea's leading businesses such as Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Motor, they're creating more jobs overseas than, they actually have more jobs overseas now than what they have here in Korea. And their revenue overseas is greater than the revenue here in Korea. And that has been the case for quite some time now. So there is a sense of urgency that unless Korea effectively counterbalance the overall trend of this kind of capital outflow out of this country, we may face greater challenge. And especially, as I mentioned, because one of the top priorities for this administration is creating jobs. This is a very important need that they are facing at this point. So in terms of short-term timing itself, job creation, I think, is one of the biggest factors here. And in the longer term timing itself, I mean, I remember as we look back for several years under the DJ Kim's administration at the end of 1990s, they came in with big drive for promoting foreign investment here as a way to kind of reform the economy as a whole. And the beginning part of Nomuyon administration also began with this kind of big emphasis on investing foreign investment into Korea as a way to build a so-called regional hub here. And that since then, even though the previous administration, Lee Myung-bak administration, their overall orientation was global business focused, they didn't do a good job in terms of all these political little details that got kind of like tangled. We don't have time to get into that. So actually, the way I see it, this is kind of like a natural point of upturn here in terms of emphasizing foreign investment, including foreign direct investment. So overall, this happening during the second year of this President Park, I think seems to make a lot of sense. And what I'm expecting at this point is more coming on our way in a form of efforts to promote foreign investment even further.
Now, President Park hinted that global competition is also driving Korea's new foreign investment promotion drive.
Yes, indeed. Even United States, as you may remember, last year in October in Washington, D.C., President Obama actually hosted a meeting called the Select USA 2013 Investment Summit. That just tells us even the world's leading economy, United States, feels a real need to promote greater foreign investment into their country. This has all to do with this offshoring phenomena that Samsung and Hyundai is driving here in Korea, and that is driven by other global businesses elsewhere as well. So they really need to create more jobs as they see their leading global businesses going overseas. And in Japan, they have even introduced a new law in November last year, a law for creating Asian hub there. And they're offering all this kind of tax incentives and different kinds of incentives for even registering patents and so on for foreign invested businesses in Japan. So their efforts right there is a big time. Even in cities like Tokyo, they have declared special zones where they want to try different things in terms of offering more incentives for foreign businesses. And in China, of course, China has been very active in this. But interesting new trend in China is before what China did was offering some kind of like incentives to bring in, like extra incentives to bring in foreign investment. But now they're trying something new, something different, that is offering more of deregulation, greater freedom for businesses. And that's a new trend, and I think China will go extra miles in this direction as well. And of course, Taiwan is trying all this different things. So indeed, regional competition itself is a big factor here.
And of course, Korea is seeking to stay on the top of the game. And it unveiled a string of policy measures yesterday. What is your evaluation?
Some of the interesting things, so let's mention the contents of it and then offer evaluation afterwards. The content itself, what was offered yesterday was, in fact, an interesting one. What the Ministry of Industry said was that for those top executives of global companies that are investing in Korea and have their presence of like either their global headquarters here or regional headquarters here, if they meet those conditions of having those kind of different kinds of headquarters placed here, those top executives will have tax incentives. They will, for their income taxes, the 17% unit, like a flat 17% income tax rate will be offered to them. That's beneficial because for Koreans here, what we face is, depending on your income level, we face somewhere between 6 to 38% income tax, and 17% flat income tax rate is a big benefit right there, and there will be a permanent offer. And also, the time-limited offer up until 2018 is those foreign scientists and technicians who are working in their R&D centers here in Korea, they will be given 50%, half off, 50% off of their incentive, their income taxes. So that's something pretty big, even though it has time limits. And there are different kind of like a job creation related, government subsidies that will be offered to these, foreign invested companies, along with long list of other little offers. So yesterday was a big day in terms of offering this kind of interesting new ideas to help foreign businesses.
Now, on the other hand, what are some limits that you see for the future in this latest foreign investment promotion drive?
Well, the way I see it, the condition that's attached to the first initiative, for instance, like if you have your global headquarters or regional headquarters here in Korea, we will offer your top executives this flat 17% tax rate, right? I'm thinking, okay, I'm sure government will work on the details, but I think it will be quite easy to declare your at least regional headquarters here, because, I mean, of course, you can name someone as a regional head of something, of subdivided function, rather than like a big businesses and declare that this is a regional headquarters. So how to go about that, especially in this country where media and some politicians often love to use this kind of inflammatory rhetorics against foreign investment. They can always create problems and noise about, oh, this classification was kind of like a little tricks that was played by foreign investors and so on. So I think there is potential for political controversies in the future. So I'm sure the government officials will have to work on those kind of little details, but it's always a perennial challenge for all of us here working in Korea to try to promote foreign investment. That headache will probably stay with us.
All right, we'll have to balance the pros and cons of that
right.
and hope for the best. All right, Dr. Kim Byung-ji, thank you so much for today and all of this week. We'll see you on Monday.
Okay.
With rapid changes in the global economy, up-to-date business and financial news has never been more essential. See what's making markets tick around the globe. We speak to the experts and cover the biggest financial stories.
North Korea provocation.
Quite good. We received a lot of positive feedback, especially from those abroad.
Over in the United States, New Jersey Governor Christie has fired a top aide who appears to have ordered lane closures at a key bridge connecting New Jersey and New York City last fall as political payback. Our Shin Se-min has more on the growing scandal that could threaten the governor's presidential aspirations.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie apologized Thursday for a growing scandal that threatens to shake his possible run for the presidency in 2016.
I am embarrassed and humiliated by the conduct of some of the people on my team. There's no doubt in my mind that the conduct that they exhibited is completely unacceptable and showed a lack of respect for their appropriate role of government and for the people that we're trusted to serve.
The apology follows revelations that one of his top aides may have ordered the closure of traffic lanes on the George Washington Bridge in September in what appears to be an act of revenge. The bridge connects New Jersey to New York City and is a major commuter route. The scandal broke Wednesday with the revelation of texts and emails showing that Bridget Ann Kelly, the governor's deputy chief of staff, and David Wildstein, a top executive at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which manages the George Washington Bridge, may have conspired to orchestrate the lane closure last fall. The lane closure appears to have been planned as political payback against a Democratic mayor in the state who refused to endorse Christie over his Democratic rival in his re-election bid last year. Christie announced Thursday that he fired Kelly while Weinstein resigned over the scandal early last month. The Office of the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey has announced it is launching an investigation into the case. Christie is a rising star in the Republican Party and a possible presidential contender in 2016. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Now, Germany has vowed to give a helping hand in destroying Syria's chemical weapons stockpile. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier says Berlin has decided to contribute as it has the capacity and technology to undertake this task. Now, Syria is believed to have 1,300 tons of chemical weapons materials, including nerve agents like sarin and VX. The German minister added the removal of the weapons could be a decisive step towards ending the conflict in Syria. Waste from the destroyed weapons will be burned at a government facility in the town of Munster in northern Germany. Germany has until now refused to accept chemical weapons onto its soil. The country has a strong pacifist and anti-nuclear movement which is opposed to any involvement in foreign missions, especially in the Middle East. Korean Airlines may soon allow the use of electronic devices during takeoffs and landings if it is confirmed the devices do not interfere with the aircraft's own communication and navigational systems. Smartphones, however, would have to be put in airplane mode, which cuts off radio communication, and passengers will still be prohibited from making calls. While the move follows a similar decision made by the Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S., Korea's Transport Ministry has formed a special task force to determine the level of radio interference by portable electronic devices and will make its final decision before the end of March. And that's it from me at this hour, but stay tuned to ARIRANG. We have a lot more coming your way, an early edition at 6.